Dear friends, a warm welcome to this side event called Nordic Action for Safe and Sustainable Arctic Communities. The communities in the Arctic are very vital for a social and environmentally sustainable future for the Arctic. The Nordic cooperation between the capital is very strong, but this also must be valid in the Arctic. And that's what we are going to focus on in this discussion. This event is hosted by the Nordic Council of Ministers, UiT, the Arctic University of Tromsø, Business Oulu, and Pro Tromsø, so a good mix of the national and regional and local level. It's a big pleasure for me to introduce today's moderator, Hilde Sandvik, journalist, and famous from the podcasts, the Norwegian, the Danish, and the Swedish. Please, Hilde.
Thank you so much, Gøril. I'm really looking forward to this session because as we have been here for a few days now, and I must say that I've never seen the Nordic cooperation as big investment in this Arctic frontiers. So if there is one thing we can say thank you to Mr. Putin for, it's this. Otherwise, nothing, I would say. We have big, huge challenges, but as one of the speakers here today once said, we will manage. As Bob the Builder also said, yes, we can. It was not Obama, as I also mentioned the other night. But without further ado, I'm very happy to invite up to the stage the State Secretary, Norwegian Ministry of Trades and Industry, Anne-Marit Bjørnflaten. Please welcome to the floor. Take the floor here. Thank you.
Dear everyone, good to see you. The Norwegian government believes that looking forward means looking northward. It is no secret that both the Prime Minister and the Minister for Trade and Industry are strong advocates for developing the opportunities here in the far north. Because the potential for making this region an engine for green growth is obvious in terms of natural resources, regional know-how, and specialized experience. The green transition is a top political priority for this government in Norway and beyond. There is no question that we have an important role to play for the European shift towards sustainability and autonomy. In today's situation, we recognize that the far north is an area of special interest, special responsibilities, and special opportunities. To put it simply, the cold north is hot in more ways than one. That is why the North plays an integral part in the government's Green Industrial Initiative, which is an ambitious program for quickening the pace and widening the scope of green transition in Norway. In it, we single out industries' best positions to make headway fast. We believe that the private sector must lead the way, but we believe that the government should help to pave it. That is why we have made very substantial resources available to mitigate risk and encourage private investments to develop new technologies and expertise to encourage entrepreneurs. As a native northerner, I want to mention especially that I see a lot of potential in increased entrepreneurship in this region. The commercial possibilities are there for all to see, from travel to tech and everything between. But we need to channel the can-do attitude of people here and see their ideas and know-how applied in free enterprise. The government has made some significant changes to our public support mechanisms to facilitate for entrepreneurs. The one-way-in principle means that the support mechanisms are now much easier to access and use. And for entrepreneurs, there is a guarantee that good projects will get coherent support from day one. The Green Industrial Initiative goes hand in hand with our goal of increasing Norwegian mainland exports by 50% within 2030. To achieve this, we have launched an export strategy which, like the Green Industrial Initiative, singles out key industries where Norwegian companies and solutions are at the forefront. We are talking about offshore wind and green maritime industry, and in the pipeline, design and manufacturing, health and travel, all of which are relevant to this region. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm outlining here is a policy based on close interplay between the public and the private sector. We believe in this kind of partnerships, as we believe in cross-border partnerships, which is an integral part of our strategy. Therefore, we have been proactive in seeking industrial and strategic partnerships with the EU, major European countries like Germany and France, the US, and not least the Nordic countries. The government believes profoundly in the benefits of Nordic cooperation, of even greater opportunities with even greater interplay. Not just because our countries share so much in terms of common values and goals, geopolitically, economically, in our visions for society and for a sustainable future, but also because the Nordic countries complement each other in terms of technology, expertise, trade, and industry. Listen, the world often sees us as one block, and that is something we should make the best use of. Because the image of that block is one of a transparent democracy, a rule-based business framework, scientific and technological progress, smart design, sustainability across the line. In short, we are modern and still looking forward, all of us. And as I said, the Norwegian government is looking to the north with the goal of bringing in more investments, more technology and know-how, more ideas and more people. We know the assets of this region. Now we must find the catalyst to unlocking the potential. And I believe part of the answer must be even closer partnerships with our Nordic neighbors, nationally, regionally, and locally. So, dear friends, Nordic cooperation is a shortcut to the future. We can learn from each other, share, collaborate, and make headway. Realizing the potential of the North starts right here, the meeting of close Nordic partners. Thank you.
Thank you so much for these inspiring words. Of course, when you're here, we all know, or a few of you know, that you're at home. You actually live here. Every weekend you come back. And as also a former, I mean, you've been also working on as an entrepreneur. What would you say to young entrepreneurs in the Arctic? Do you have some advice? Can they be optimistic?
Yes, absolutely. I can add. I used to be a kelp entrepreneur. I also, of course, share the concerns for the geopolitical situation and the impact of climate changes that especially affects us here in the north. But these challenges also bring opportunities, and I would actually like to use myself as an example. The world's population is growing, which means that we will need more sustainably produced food. Our fisheries, the agriculture sector will need more sustainable produced feed. Then it's a paradox that the ocean covers 71% of the surface of the Earth, but only 2% of the food we eat globally comes from the ocean. And we have clear, fresh, clean water right outside our living doors. And that means that we have a massive potential just right outside where we are standing right now for producing sustainable food, sustainable feed. So that's just one example. As I said in my introduction, I also believe that the Arctic can be a center for renewable energy, for new green green industries. So there are, and think about the travel industry. I mean, walk in the streets
as
of
long as there
Tromsø.
is infrastructure working, so yeah.
Yeah, but people seek unique experiences and untouched wilderness, and we can offer all of that. So there are so many opportunities and such a huge potential. And so over to my advice. And this is based on my experience. To be an entrepreneur, you need to be optimistic, you need to be adventurous, and you need to be persistent. And in order to not only be able to live in the North, but actually be able to thrive in the North, you need to be optimistic. You need to be adventurous, and you need to be persistent.
So it's kind of matchmaking here.
Yeah, it's a matchmaking. The northern Norwegian mindset.
But when you then think about the Nordics, how to strengthen the Nordic cooperation and also the know-how in sustainable global development, what do you see?
First of all, we have to do what you have been doing here. We have to tell the world about the great work that is being done in a Nordic context, as you have been focusing on this event. And secondly, cooperation. I think cooperation is the key. The Nordic Council of Ministers, they have a great vision, Vision 2030, saying that, and this is a common, important Nordic vision, we want to make the Nordic region the world's most integrated and sustainable region by 2030. And that's only possible through cooperation, so we need to cooperate. And that is why we're investing so much in the industrial partnerships. And that's why the Nordic industrial partnership is so important, because we have to contribute to close business cooperation through common Nordic value change, and in order to increase the export of Nordic solutions to the world.
Thank you so much. I hope that you will. Will you be sitting here? Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Because this session is, it's telling each other what we can do, but it's also a living think tank, as I've thought about it. But now we'll zoom in from the Norwegian government into Troms County. And Mari Martinsen Siljebråten, the chair of County Committee on Transport from Troms, will come up here now. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hilde. I would like to start with some democratic values and how representation ensures a stronger democratic foundation in the North. We live in a time where democracies are on decline globally, and that should encourage us in the North to make our democratic foundation stronger. In the Nordics, we have many similarities, both historically, but also when it comes to the societal challenges that we face today, when it comes to, for example, population decline, limitation when it comes to mobility of people and goods, but also challenges and changes in global security that makes the Arctic region a real-time hotspot in many ways. Therefore, it is clear to Troms County that there is much we can unite on in facing shared challenges for our societies. Troms is the Norwegian region where three tribes meet and come together: the Samis, the Kvens, and the Norwegians. Coming together is not and has not been without challenges. We still have far to go when it comes to joint development goals for the region between just us living here. And that is partly due to historical wounds due to exploitation of both resources and people of national minorities. And that is a shared challenge between the Nordic countries in the North. The North often fear exploitation and just becoming a supplier of resources that enriches national economy without enriching, for example, Troms. That is not to be underestimated, because it's a feeling that lives within many of our people. But in large, our northern mentality is that we are a proud northern region that sets high standards for our own development and future possibilities, also when it comes to cooperations and shared goals in the north. Representation from the north in national governments and policymaking is of high importance to ensure successful achievement of strong and sustainable businesses and communities. To ensure this, one needs to make sure that northern perspectives in national policymaking is present. Norway has one minister in the national government. Sweden has none, and Finland has none. To ensure strength in cooperation, one needs to ensure representation and participation in the cooperation itself. That is both nationally and within the Nordic communities. The political mindset of Troms County is safety and security for our people and our businesses, developing the possibilities for education and innovation, activating creativity and innovation in Troms, and maximizing the desire for people to live and stay. And last but not least, just like Nokia, connecting people through infrastructure and the ability to move. And isn't that all we all want? Those goals, yes. But to make sure that we reach them, they have to be more than just words. You need to put policy and actions behind them. When it comes to infrastructure and communication, Troms County is very proud of our cooperation with our neighboring countries, but we can always do more. And in the time so we live, we have to do more. The strength of Nordic cooperation in transportation and communication is vital for our common possibilities for sustainable development. We are strongly, here in Troms, dependent on transportation infrastructure in Finland and in northern Sweden. The national planning processes should increasingly think cross-border, both domestically and towards Sweden and Finland. The NATO membership in Sweden and Finland will lift the importance of total defense, preparedness, and must become a major topic for cooperation and joint thinking across the borders. Transport corridors via Norway is an alternative route of transportation, for example, for Sweden and Finland, if there are issues in addition to the Baltic Sea. New North is a project of collaboration in the regional cooperation with transport between the regions in northern Norway, Finland, and Sweden. And the basis for the New North is the current geopolitical situation and the rapidly evolving industrial structures in the northern regions, affecting the need to develop today's logistics and transport corridors. These are important issues to Troms. Troms is strongly influenced by what is happening globally. Cooperation is complicated, but it is important in troubled times. We will continue focusing on cooperation with regions that are closest to us, and we believe that we can gain more together and meet our shared challenges, as I mentioned, more united and integrated in the future than we do today. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're moving over to the hosts of today, namely Unni Klövstad. And I mean, you have such a long title and big scope that I have to read it out loudly. You're actually head of the Department of Gender, Equality, International Cooperation, Nature Resources and Culture from the Council, Nordic Council. So please welcome Unni.
Thank you so much, Hilde. But here today, I'm just representing the Nordic Council of Ministers, so we make it easy. But thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you so much for partnering with us on this very good setting to focus and discuss our collaboration in the North. A changing narrative for the Arctic has been the focus of this conference. The changing surroundings, the changing geopolitics that present new and enhanced challenges, but also opportunities. And as you said in the introduction, Hilde, the Nordic has been very much part of this agenda. And this we take as an increased interest for the Nordic cooperation, for what is already being done, but maybe also increased expectations for what we can continue to do and even strengthen in the time to come. But saying that, we do get this sense that maybe not everybody knows so much about the work that is being done in the Nordic Council of Ministers. So I will just give you a short introduction to who we are and what we represent. This is the government collaboration between the Nordic countries. There is a Nordic Council as well, which is the parliamentarian collaboration. But the Nordic Council of Ministers is then the government representation. And we have a secretariat in Copenhagen where I work and some of my colleagues who are sitting here with me. This is the secretariat which facilitates, but also which initiates and take initiatives in order for this Nordic collaboration to continue to blossom and flourish in order to reach the vision that the State Secretary mentioned, which is really the political framework for all our collaboration. And it is a very bold and ambitious vision, it has to be said. It is to be the most integrated, the most sustainable region in the world by 2030. And a strategic, or a couple of the strategic priorities in order to achieve that is to make the region or our countries competitive in a global context, but also to contribute to social sustainability in our countries and regions. And I think that that is also something that has been very much the focus of our discussions and is very much, of course, what we're trying to achieve with creating these livable societies, resilient, secure and safe, but also then livable in the Arctic and the Nordic region. We have a number of subsidiary institutions whom you will also hear a couple of speaking here later, the Nordic Energy Research and Norregio. But we also have a sort of wide variety of institutions spread around in the Nordic countries. And we cover all areas of government work except for foreign policy and security and defense, which means that it's spread from transportation to digitalization to culture, gender equality, as was mentioned. And of course, this is also represented in the initiatives, in the project and programs that we are having in the northern parts of the Nordic region. We focus our work on knowledge development, knowledge exchange, innovation, and finding practical, workable solutions together. And I think that is very much what you will continue to focus on in this discussion. So with that, I'm just very happy that we're part of the hosts of this session, and I'm really looking forward to the discussions that will continue from now on. Thank you.
And to spark everything off, we have, of course, a young representative, the youth represented here. I heard this week, and that was quite shocking, I must say, that in Tromsø, half of the population is under 30 years of age, which is, I mean, who can compete with that? I think also lots of state leaders would be very happy with those numbers. But now I will wish up on stage here Martin Gamst Johnsen, who I have read is a cod lover. But besides from that, is a youth representative in Barents Regional in the Youth Council. So welcome up.
They say all great men have great titles, so I'll take cod lover. Nice. Well, yeah, I used to sell cod once upon a time when I was young, so I'll take it. Thank you. I am the chair of the Barents Regional Youth Council. And I can say that we have a lot of young people in the Barents region, and we talk a lot. We ask each other a lot of questions and try to figure out all of these societal challenges and how we can solve them. And Nordic Action for the Safe and Sustainable Arctic Communities It's a good title because it takes a very, very big question. I thought about it. Why do I live here? Well, the weather is nice, as you've all experienced. And I asked my Swedish friend and colleague, why do you live in northern Sweden? Well, it's not the capital, so I like it. And then I asked my Finnish colleague and friend. He said, we have sauna. It's good. So all of these things is part of why we like to live here. But a lot of this question has been asked a lot. How do we make people stay? How do we make people stay? It's the wrong question to ask. And I said, people will go out in the world and study, and then maybe they will come back. So how do we make them come back? This is also the wrong question. You have to ask the question, how do we make people want to live here? That's where you need to begin. We need to figure out the successful factors of why young people want to live in this region. And that's a lot of what we work on. We create these platforms and conferences where young people can meet, discuss, and come to a conclusion to all these big questions. And one of the answers that over these many talks and meetings and conferences that at least I have come to some sort of conclusion, and that is to give people the opportunity to achieve prosperity. And prosperity is many, many things. It can be education, jobs, and housing. These are fundamentals. You need this for a sustainable society. And young people need to believe that this is a possibility to achieve these things. If not, they will go other places to find this opportunity. Because life is more than just your job. You also need to have culture and things to do in your free time. Because this gives not only the fundamentals, but it gives essence to life. It creates life. If you walk in the city, you can see life in the streets. And that is something that is very, very important for people. To feel that there is something going on. It's a lively place to live. And international cooperation is maybe one of the greatest things that we can bring to the new young generation that will come after me. And as for now, I am a young part of this generation. And international cooperation, it gives young people the opportunity to see that the world is much bigger than I am. And you don't have to go far to find someone who lives in a different country with different stories. And if you give young people the possibility to work together, they can have a wide network in the north, an international network, and that creates a foundation for prosperity. Life is the opportunity to achieve. And I think that is something that is super important to young people. The possibility to be ambitious, the possibility to achieve, and the possibility to make great things of your life. And for many people, to create great things in your life can be very, very different for many. For some, it is to create a family. For some, it is to create a business. And we need to put a foundation in the way that we work with young people, to put a foundation so they can achieve all these great things in life. And I think Nordic cooperation is one of the great stepping stones to make this region a lot more lively, to bring in other cultures and to create the foundation that all young people strive for. So I want to say now that we're coming to the end that young people, they need to believe in the opportunities that exist in their local community. If they do not exist, they will look for these opportunities elsewhere. So we need to focus on creating these opportunities here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Now we have, you can... Thank you so much. We've heard words on the strength of the Nordic cooperation, but now we're going to dive into the practice. How does it look? And we're first going to a Danish person actually living in Stockholm, Linnea Jungsberg, who is senior researcher in Nordic, and you're going to talk about young voices from the Arctic and the impact of climate change and the permafrost degradation. So welcome, Linnea.
Yes, hello everyone, and I actually prepared a PowerPoint, and I wonder if it's coming now. Otherwise, we will do it without it. But it's a lot of nice pictures from beautiful communities. So let's see, maybe give it another minute. Yes, woohoo! So I will highlight today some of the perspectives of young people living in the Arctic and also some impacts from climate change and permafrost degradation. And this research that I present today is funded by Nordic collaboration and the European Union. This is a web presentation. Aha. It's not possible to check it, I think. Aha, okay. But you can help me, right? Thank you. So a big share of the young people living in the Arctic are also indigenous people. And many of them, they grew up with parents and grandparents that have been impacted by colonization, directly or indirectly. And it can be like forced boarding schools, lower salaries for the same type of work, and forced spirals in women to prevent unplanned pregnancies. And there are many examples. So here it's important to keep in mind that these young people grew up with such a context and with such caretakers. In addition to this, also indigenous people often live and function in multilingual societies. So one example here is in Greenland, where you in high school and lower secondary school can only attend the school in Danish. So it's not available in Greenlandic, their mother tongue, which often impacts both completion rates and also how certain topics are integrated and learned. Finally, a unique trait with young people and indigenous people in the Arctic is the proximity to nature. So growing up often in smaller settlements with huge abundance of nature as the backyard, as the playground. So giving a bit of a pan-Arctic look here, how many people actually live on permafrost? So in total, we have 4.9 million people living in areas with permafrost. And permafrost is permanent frozen ground, and it means frozen for a minimum of 2 years. And we see 4 different types of permafrost, which is continuous, discontinuous, sporadic, and isolated. And in the map, you can see the yellow settlements are those inland settlements, and the turquoise ones are coastal settlements. And the coastal settlements also have challenges related to erosion, for instance, which can be caused by permafrost, and it can be landslides resulting in tsunamis and so on. Can take next. Yeah, so this is a bit unfortunate because I thought there would be some animations, which is not feasible here. Anyhow, what is important in this slide to communicate is that we have some projections showing that the permafrost would disappear. So basically 42% of all permafrost settlements will disappear by 2050. So it will mean a lot of change. And depending on the area and depending on the type of permafrost, there will be different hazards and different risks to these communities. And one current big challenge in many of the Arctic communities are roads, which is a big maintenance and cost associated with permafrost thawing. So here's an example where you see they just add layers and layers of asphalt every year, which because the sediment is sinking. And with this change in nature, it's not only the roads, but also subsistence activities that are impacted. So here is the results from a survey we have conducted in Aklavik in Canada, Longyearbyen in Svalbard, and Qaqortoq in Greenland. And what stands out is that the young people, they are a little less, how can you say, valuing subsistence activities compared to those respondents that are aged 35 to 65 years old. And if you go next. One reason for this is partly that there was also here another quote that was behind this picture, but anyhow, showing a Canadian young hunter who says that the travel routes are becoming longer. The rivers are drying out, so it takes more time, and there are just so much more uncertainty associated with harvesting with subsistence activities. And if you put that layer of uncertainty on top of the general uncertainty that many people are in terms of where to go for work, what kind of education am I interested in, where do I want to settle with family, and so on, you see that the whole climate puts another layer of the complexity of the young people to navigate in. And adding to that also, there are several mentioning the impacts from the colonial experiences of the parents and grandparents, and how disillusionment and challenges of keeping up hope can come up as a challenge. On the positive side, still also, there are several standing up really for themselves and standing up of their pride, their cultural heritage, and really managing now to like be themselves daring and trusting and having, how can you say, a bigger self-esteem and a trust in themselves and their actions. So this was just a brief insights of some of the layers of the big changes we can see, and also the many areas of the young people to navigate in. You can end. Next. Yes.
Thank you so much, Linesia. This is kind of the reality we're looking at here. I will now wish up on stage Klaus Kutte, who is another Dane coming up here, who's been working on energy in the Nordic energy sector for years, and I've seen you saying that we will manage this. Really? And now you're going to tell us how. You're not Bob.
Thank you very much. So for setting the scene for the debate later today on sustainable energy in the Arctic, I would like to start by asking you three questions, actually. So what is the energy challenge or solution in the Arctic that will, together with the rest of the Nordic region, pave the way for becoming the most sustainable and integrated region in the world? Second, how can further Nordic energy cooperation facilitate the combination of security, high environmental ambitions and economic growth? And third, in what ways can these ambitions obtain a broad and strong commitment from local communities, the public, the industry and civil society? While you're thinking about your answers, let me introduce my institution. Nordic Energy Research is an institution under the Nordic Council of Ministers. We promote joint competence building and knowledge sharing that strengthen national initiatives in the energy area. We do this by facilitating intergovernmental energy cooperation, as well as through funding of collaborative energy research on mobility and networks. We cover all the Nordic countries between the border of Canada in the west to the Russian border in the east. And since much of the Nordic territory falls within the Arctic Circle, the Nordic region is strongly involved in issues that concern this unique and harsh, but also vulnerable area. Now, the Arctic region has unique challenges and opportunities in connection with the green transition. The Arctic region consists mostly of remote areas of islands with limited electricity connection between national grids or to mainland grids. Such isolated microgrids depends largely on local energy supply, as well as on import of expensive fossil fuels to cover stationary energy demand, as well as transport. On the one hand, the Arctic has large renewable energy resources that enable the region to become self-sufficient with zero-emission energy, or even an exporter of green fuels. On the other hand, the smaller or isolated our energy system is, the more challenging it is to integrate viable renewable energy in the supply. But this is where energy cooperation comes in. The Arctic, as well as the rest of the Nordic region, are well positioned to strengthen energy security and at the same time ensure access to energy that is both sustainable and economically fair for citizens and local community. But it is a trilemma where energy security, energy prices and sustainability sometimes pulls in different directions. The Nordic governments are working closely with private actors to boost the introduction of low carbon solutions, and jointly we are in an excellent position to deploy innovative solutions due to ambition energy and climate policy goals, as well as extensive research program. And especially the cooperation within energy research and common knowledge creation play a crucial role in this. My institution, Nordic Energy Research, supports several joint research projects as well as knowledge network. An example of our network is the network for green and self-reliant energy solutions for islands and isolated communities, with active participation from Greenland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Svalbard, and other Arctic communities. Each communities are often very small, but together they find like-minded and exchange experiences and best practices. I'm also pleased to see that the Arctic region is well presented in the research project that we finance, showcasing that new energy carriers such as hydrogen is even important if you're located in the south or in the north, and that joint Nordic research is beneficial for common capacity building. Now, there's no doubt that the green transition has political support, but what about the public or local acceptance? The green transition affects all of us by our way of living, our common climate, etc. We're all part of it, and we should be. Therefore, we must make sure that it is an inclusive process. The Nordic region shall not only be a green region, but also a socially sustainable region. The green transition necessitates new energy infrastructures and constructions, often very visible in the case with wind farms or transmission lines. This affects citizens and local resistance. So we must humanize the green transition by an inclusive cultural transition for a green future. Citizens need to be engaged, and we need to establish mutual trust and common values. In many ways, this is a new situation for the energy sector, for the regulators, as well for the citizens. And it's not an easy task. There's no one-size-fits-all. We must exchange experiences and learn from each other's best practice. So with this, and as indicated in the question I started my talk with, I hope that we today can enlighten each other on the rapidly evolving landscape of Nordic energy cooperation and on the importance of an inclusive and sustainable development in the Arctic as well as part of the Nordic region. Thank you.
Thank you, Klaus, and I will make sure that I bring your questions into the discussion we will have later here. But now, last but not least, we're heading back to Tromsø. Dag Rune Olsen, the rector at the University of Tromsø, the Arctic University of Norway. Welcome.
Thank you, and first of all, thank you for inviting me here to this event with an agenda that holds the highest priority at our university, namely Northern Nordic cooperation. I'm really happy that we can discuss that, perhaps in somewhat more in-depth and in detail. Prior to last year's Arctic Frontiers, our university launched a strategy that we call the High North 3.0. To keep the cooperation in the High North vibrant also without Russia, the largest Arctic state. Collaboration in the Northern Nordic region is one of 3 pillars in this strategy that we developed and launched. And to catalyze this, UIT mobilizes our academic partners, or we mobilized our academic partners in what's called the Arctic 5. That is universities in northern part of Finland, northern part of Sweden, and northern part of Norway. But we also extended it into businesses and politics to form what we called the Arctic 5 Extended. We took the first step during Arctic Frontiers 2023, that is last year. Then directors of the Arctic 5 universities invited stakeholders to a round table to explore both the potential but also the obstacles for cooperation across the borders, across academia, business and politics. So across the borders, across the sectors. And we are really moving ahead. And we also see some results. Yesterday, we hosted our second Arctic 5 Extended event during Arctic Frontiers 2024 here in Tromsø. And it was, I was happy to be on the front row when a new business initiative project was presented by Equinor in collaboration with the energy cluster Energi Nord, Energy North, where also academic and business partners are participating. They launched a 3-year project which is called Empowering Arctic Societies, and it aims at developing green value chains in the northern Nordic region. So it's across the national borders. And the overall goal is to speed the energy transition by focusing on 3 pillars: market, technology, and societies. This project represents a shift from supplier development to industrial development. And it's also a perfect example of solutions for the North, initiated in the North and developed in the North. And we need more of these initiatives. So, taking part here in this discussion on Nordic collaboration in practice, I'd like to share 3 strategic advices from that I extracted then from yesterday's event, the discussions we had there. The first one goes to all of us, and the second and third is perhaps more aimed at the politicians. Firstly, we need, ladies and gentlemen, to bring the talk about the North back to the North. We own the possibilities, the challenges, the obstacles. There is absolutely no reason why this should be left only to the capitals in the south. If we look at the high north, the region in the northern part of Norway, Sweden and Finland, we see some of the same challenges, obstacles, but also definitely the potential. Why can't we create a dialogue east-west instead of north-south? I'd also like to advise politicians to finance networks. The Arctic 5 provides useful research for the green transition, and there are many business initiatives as well. But we need to build the bridges and connect the dots. So networks between researchers, companies and industries will give power to the energy transition in the north, and as synergies can create also local markets for new energy forms. Thirdly and lastly then, improve our means of transportation. Connectivity, infrastructure, east-west instead of solely north-south. Improve our means of transportation because the current infrastructure is not enabling a smooth dialogue and exchange between the cities in the north. To be concrete, we must be able to meet without traveling by plane via our capitals in the south for transit both ways. Yes, the dramatic shift in the geopolitics over the last couple of years it's challenging, but it also represents an opportunity. And the opportunity, well, we find that in the North Nordic region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I actually wrote down your kind of challenges here because now we're going to dive into some of these big questions, and I am happy that we will have now the possibility to have 2 panels. First, we're going to concentrate on how does it actually look now, the Nordic networks in the Arctic, and what's next. So here on stage now, I will invite Carina Sommerli, Mayor of Luleå, Juuso Rönnholm, Public Affairs Manager in Business Oulu, Kim Jørgen Andreassen, Project Manager, Bodø Regional Development, and last but not least, Gøril Johansen, CEO of Pro Tromsø. Come back on stage again, welcome. And now, I mean, this is cooperation in how it looks. Looks lovely, doesn't it? And Carina, I just want to move to you first, actually, because sitting in the middle of Norway and Finland, and with now a very physical enemy, and an enemy that we cannot see yet, or we see it, slowly emerging, the climate crisis, but we are in so many crisis geopolitically and also otherwise. How has it changed? I know you've been in your position for 3 years, and when you look upon the Nordic cooperation, what's your experience? What do you see?
Well, the interest in the north are growing in Sweden and in the whole part of Europe, I would say. And it's because of many things. It's because of the climate change, and the climate change is also driving green transition of the industries that need electricity. They need, for electricity, you need minerals, and you also need energy. And we have that in the north of Sweden, in Finland, and in Norway. And we have it very, very clear. And on top of that, we also have a geopolitical crisis, and our needs to cooperate east-west are bigger than ever. So I would say that we did not, it was not that interesting in cooperating on the east-west levels a few years ago. We never talked about it.
You talked to Stockholm.
Yeah, exactly, because they were the ones who affected us, and maybe we were like talking to Brussels.
Of course.
And today we see that when I talk to Gunnar here in Tromsø, he's actually describing the same days as I have in Luleå, and then you realize maybe we should co-plan this because we are actually in the same situation. And then you have to find other ways to cooperate. So I'm saying we're growing the cooperations, but they were not that strong earlier.
And what does it mean in practice? I mean, what's the aim of that cooperation, and what's the consequences?
Well, we are focusing on the close cooperation. In Luleå, we have three priorities on our international cooperation. The first is the Barents area, our close neighbors, and then it's, of course, we have a very, very close cooperation with Oulu, but also Tromsø, Bodø, Rovaniemi cities, Umeå within Sweden, of course. And the other is the Arctic, and the third is the European level. And we are like trying to find these ways. One of our cooperations is the Arctic Mayors Forum, where we meet other colleagues and try to make a stable cooperation, that we meet the same people over and over, because this is about trust. This is about hearing the things. You know, when I hear the mayor of Oulu telling me what's going on at their place, then I realize, oh, we should talk about this.
Yeah.
But if you don't even know it, you don't know how to look for it either. But right now, our cooperation is like cities to cities. We are talking to our peers in the other city and trying to find common ways. And I would like us to have like the top meeting of the Nordics, the mayors, the universities, the companies, but also our governments in the same room, talking about how our future should look.
I mean, now we're not diving too much into that now, but there is a big, but when Ebba Busch came up as a new minister, Swedish government said, no, the North will be such a big region for us and so crucial region. Do you feel, as from your position, that Luleå has become more important? I mean, from Norwegian perspective, districts and other places than Stockholm has not have any kind of importance in Swedish politics.
Yeah.
It's very much based on capital.
And I would say yes and no. We are in a bigger focus than ever. When the Swedish chairmanship of the European Union started a year ago, they went to Kiruna. When the European Union had their top meeting, the TTC meeting with the Blinkens and the United States, they went to Luleå. So we know that when the Swedish government wants to show the world one or two places, they go to Kiruna and Luleå. So they are proud, and that's something that we see. But at the same time, they are writing a strategy for Northern Sweden, and they've been doing that for 1.5 years, and I've been on one meeting. So there's someone writing this strategy for me, not with me. And
it's very Swedish.
Yeah, and maybe not what I need and see. So yes, we are in a focus bigger than ever. I mean, I have visits from all over the world coming to see the green wonder of Northern Sweden. Not that many from Finland and Norway, actually, but yeah, we have a focus, and then often the government. But then they have to make the decisions that we need, and then, well, we have some things to work on.
Gøril, you wanted to add something?
Yes, regional cooperation in the Arctic between the Nordic countries is not new. It has lasted for, many, many years, more than 40 years. The new thing is the focus. Previously we have been cooperating about, talking to each other, coordinating the cooperation with Russia, the which was mentioned by Karina, the Barents cooperation. And now we have, because of the geopolitical situation, we have a much more strong focus on the cooperation between ourselves. And we see that, and in the Norwegian part of the Arctic, in the Nordics, we noticed increased attention from Sweden and Finland, among other things, about defense. Who is it to have, the military? Who is it to be a municipality hosting military presence? I would also like to say that for Tromsø, for Norway, has been a huge focus from the government for many, many years because of the Arctic policy, the Arctic strategies of Norway, and we have really strong voices in youth, for example. And sadly, these days we see the whole point of the Arctic policy of the Norwegian government, and that's why, for example, Tromsø has been enhanced as the Arctic capital, with hosting Arctic Frontiers, the Arctic University of Norway, the Secretariat of the Arctic Council, and I think like the Arctic Mayors Forum is a very strong platform for this dialogue. And I think we will speak about the business later, but that's another important element.
And Juuso, Olo is, you've been co-working with Luleå for a longer time when it comes to practical politics. I know that you know each other well. What do you see? Soon Finland and Sweden will participate in NATO big, what is happening, it's not called the cold response any longer. It has changed name, and now it's the North. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, I would say that I think same as you, that we have a lot of cooperation now coming and going on in the North between cities and regions and business organizations. We have good cooperation with the Tromsø and so on. But I think there should be always done more and could be done in the Nordic. And as Karina told, we have a lot of opportunities, and they are huge in the North. And also, of course, challenges, the geopolitical issues and climate change and so on. But because those challenges are so big, we must put, in my point of view, put all of our efforts that our governments would do more close cooperation and strategic level in the North.
On the top level.
On top level, supporting investments and green transition, but mostly logistics issues. As
Dag Rune Olsen pointed towards, transport infrastructure, and we're going to talk about that also. But moving a little bit south to Bodø.
Thank you.
Do you feel also emerged in this, surrounded by this Nordic cooperation?
Oh yeah, definitely. We are looking very closely to our neighbors right over the borders, and it's very good to hear that it's going very well. However, we have some other conditions in Nordland. I'm representing Nordland, and here we can see that the framework is quite different. We in Nordland, in the 5 years, we have been very, very attractive due to our 100% renewable energy and also the lowest energy prices in all of Europe. Now we see that this gold mine has reversed, and the favor is going to our neighboring countries who have a better framework, which we cannot compete with. But this is very impressive. We are looking and getting a lot of good feedback, and also as well as good communication with you, and seeing how things are done there is very inspiring for us. So we are celebrating it, but it's actually a message we want to put further to our politicians, because this is a matter of good factors when it comes to competition. And we have had cases where we had a lot of interessents wanting to come to Nordland, but we lost them for the favor of our good neighboring countries.
And what are the main challenges, would you say? Is it the pricing now, or is it lack of power, or is it transportation, or what is it?
It's the lack of power as we see it now. We see that we cannot give sufficient energy to all the projects we are having. We are saying no to a lot of projects due to power insufficiency. We need to build more power and also more grids to transport it. So it's a very critical issue.
And that's, I mean, we're going to have another panel diving into the issues of power. But Carina, because it's so connected also to business, and in Sweden now there are huge amount of money being piled up to go to the north to create big hydrogen factories and all kinds of things that will even make us more vulnerable here in Norway, across the border.
And I think first of all, I agree with you. We need to start new energy production very, very fast and renewable if possible. And that is a challenge. Right now, we have a surplus in northern Sweden. We have had that for like 50 years, so it's nothing new. And right now, we are starting to use that. So right now, I still have companies contacting us wanting to be in Luleå, and we have to tell them that, well, the electricity, it's no longer, well, for 1 or 2 years, yes, it's existing, the surplus, but it will be gone. And then we should think about this system together, because right now it's the first one who booked the energy that will get it. And we are trying to make a strategic plan what industries should be in Luleå. And maybe not everyone should be at our place. We think that we have minerals in our area. We think that we need to use the minerals, both the steel and copper, the common, but also the rare minerals. And we have them in our area, and I want the value to increase here. I don't want them to be put on a ship going down to some other countries, and the value and the jobs will be created and the wealth will be created there. I want it to be in our area. And for that, you need energy. So for us, it's like the steel industry, the mining industry, they are priorities. The fertilizer industry, but also battery industry, they are priorities because we think they should be in our place. All companies that need electricity can't be in our area because then we won't have enough energy. But we have to increase the production and quite fast.
And I just, I mean, before we go out to the other panel, Gøril, I mean, there are lots of very the topics here, they're not straight through. It's very, how could I say it, vulnerable in many ways.
Yes, but I have to say that there are so many good things going on also, like humans in the Arctic. In Tromsø, you mentioned it yourself, and we had a fantastic presentation of one young. The young and the people are our most important resource, and I would like to highlight all the positive things going on. Of course, it's difficult. Of course, we are worried all about the geopolitical troubles and the climate crisis, but we are working on it together, and we are such a strong part of the Arctic, the Nordics. We are on top of the world, you know. In general, in the Arctic, we have knowledge, we have research, we have biotech, we have culture. Tromsø will be the European Youth Capital on 2026. Bodø, the European Culture Capital 2024. We have so many young entrepreneurs, for example, health tech. We are having B2Bs with Luleå and Oulu and so many good things. Actually, in February, we have a big group of young people going polar bear pitching in Oulu, and they will be in the ice for like 20 seconds and pitching from, you know, the... So I would like to remind us all that we have to keep our spirits up and to our young, we have, like Martin said, we have to tell them about the good things also.
But I just want to, before finishing up here, when we talked, Carina, you also said that we should have a kind of coordinating spirit, a coordinating person who could match up the electricity system, the infrastructure, and also to see how we can all make this into something that can actually function across border as well. Yeah. Do you have a final word, Juuso?
I don't know, final, but some word. I crap about your idea about top meeting in the north, and I think about that we need, of course, communication also. We have a lot of meetings and cooperation, but we must communicate about that, and so the young people and everyone see that good things are happening in the north, and maybe on those subjects that we have discussed, we can arrange some kind of top meeting with the high level, with the local level, and set a very big targets on that. But the communication is also important.
Carina, very shortly.
Very short. I think we have challenges, yes, but we can be the solution to the problems. And if we do it together, we can all be the solutions. This has been the debate in northern Sweden. It's like, oh, did that municipality get this investment and that? And right now, the investments are so huge that we can all have a piece of the cake if we do it right.
And that means that Norway needs to join EU, but that's another issue, and we're not going to take that here, because the money comes from EU, just to you pay for it as well. Thank you so much to the panel here. And now we're moving on very fast to the last panel, the Nordics and the power of tomorrow's Arctic. Anne-Mette Guerro, investment advisor at Nefco, will come up here. Erling Dahlberg, director of markets and technology from Troms Kraft. And Stein Martinsen, the director of communications and governance, Varanger Kraft. So, welcome up here. Nice to see you. Finally, not on screen or television. We saw each other yesterday, Anne-Mette, and since, I mean, the other guys here, they're working very kind of concrete, direct into the power sector, but you are working around this area, so to say. Can you present what Nefco is actually doing and why you are one of the solutions?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Very interesting to be part of this. Nefco stands for the Nordic Environment Finance Corporation. We were established in 1990 as a collaboration between the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. We report to the Ministry of Environment in all the Nordic countries, so we have a clear environmental mandate. Since the establishment in 1990, we have contributed to financing more than 1,600 green projects globally. And the capital that we received at that point, we have reinvested more than 3 times. So we have a very environmental impact on our investments. Since 6 years ago, we have a dedicated team working with Nordic and also Arctic small and medium-sized enterprises. And our task is to accelerate the green transition by financing international scale-up of Nordic green solutions on global markets. And we do take a higher financial risk than other financiers if we see a high green impact potential. And we are sector agnostic, meaning that we look at sectors between transport, mobility, agriculture, forest, water, marine resources, and of course energy efficiency and environmental energy. And we also have a strong focus on biodiversity, which is very important, especially here in the Arctic. Climate is a global problem, but biodiversity can be seen as a local problem. And we have had a biodiversity pilot program where we work with several Nordic companies addressing their business and how that impacts biodiversity.
And as we've heard here also, I mean, we have demands now and we have challenges that don't match up. Sitting here between these gentlemen who really work on one part of that coin, namely power. I want to go to Troms first. When you've heard the speakers today, I guess you've been kind of measuring terawatts going through your head and thinking, how can we make this? And one of Klaus Gutte's questions, I can ask that to you directly. How can further Nordic energy cooperation facilitate the combination of security, higher environmental ambitions, and economic growth?
Well, it's a quite difficult question because I see that especially the Norwegian people are going in a way where we are, well, being able to share the electricity power. I see that the people are struggling with that, so far in the history, the interconnecting power lines between the countries has been a very good thing for Norway, because before we had the interconnectors, we had to build all the power by ourselves. We had to use the nature, and after we got the interconnectors, we was able to when there was not enough water in the reservoirs, we could import power, and so on. We could be able to use the nature more efficiency. But what I'm seeing today is that people, when we are discussing the electricity market, which is across the borders, a lot of people is arguing for not doing that, that we will keep the electricity by ourselves. And that is a challenging thing to do, I believe. I believe that we have to cooperate with cross-border.
And now we hear, and I can move over to Varanger, Stein Mathisen. You've shared the experience that we have gained from this Nordic energy cooperation for so long time, but now it starts to get a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, because a lot of the Green Deal, the green energy transmission has maybe made every country occupied with themselves. They have domestic challenges that has to be solved. So the cooperation between the Nordic countries has maybe have some difficulties in that respect. The green energy transmission has also it's a need for a cooperation, yeah. But I believe it's not so high up in the discussion level in the Nordic Ministry Department or.
But it seems to be coming up there, and we need each other.
Yeah, we were speaking about 10 years ago. We are talking about the Arctic Circle. It's a redundant grid operation between Norway, Sweden, and Finland. It's a kind of big circle between the northern Norway, northern Sweden.
Put it up here.
Northern Norway, northern Sweden, and northern Finland. And that's the effort is that the national grid operators cooperate between how to build it. And then you have redundant energy supplies to every country. You can transport the electricity production from every country to each other and make a kind of redundant system. But that has been stopped for about 5-6 years ago because there are no interest in doing it together. They have challenges for themselves.
Yeah.
A reply on that, because I know Statnett, which is a national grid operator in Norway, they are regulated by laws for what they can do and not do. And the regulation has a lot of lackness, I will say. So we have to do something with the regulations that those parts are under. So that's, I think, is very important.
Anne-Mette, I mean, you're not working on these big grids, but you're working with the small machineries around. And do you see the power challenge? Do you see that from your perspective, and how do you want to solve it?
No, we do see that because we talk to the small companies that wants to do something about it with the technologies that they provide through the grid in the renewable energy sector and being supplier of actually an innovation for actually being part of this transition. And I think that from our perspective, we look at the green transition as a whole, and not only the renewable energy sector, for instance, but we want to have a high impact where we put the funds that we have a mandate to use. So for us, the small technology companies are vital in this transition. So whatever the big companies do, or the electricity providers or the producers, they need these small companies for the technology because they cannot do it alone. So that's what we see. They want to get into this business as well. And I think it's important for the big operators or the big companies to welcome them because you cannot do it alone.
And then I want to ask the same question to all of you. It's also Klaus Skutte's question, so just you can be thinking about this. In what way can the ambitions obtain a broad and strong commitment from local communities, the public industry and civil society? I mean, that's what you're struggling with constantly, and I go to Tromsø first.
Well, I think the society is the problem with the society is that we don't understand what is actually going on. So we have to communicate better. We have to tell them the problem and tell them also the solution for the problems.
And can you sketch out the problem so we can understand what the problem is?
Well, the problem is actually, as we heard earlier, the surplus of electricity is on the way away from us. Actually, in the northern part in Troms and Finnmark, there is no surplus anymore. So we have to import the electricity from Nordland, and that's a problem. People believe that we have a lot of power. We have the hydropower. You just renew them, and they are from the 60s, 70s. There must be a lot of potential there, but the fact is that the hydropower plants that we own has been very good for us. We have made a lot of money on them, and every time we had stopped on them, we have renewed them. And so there is not a lot of potential in the existing hydropower plants to get more electricity out of them. So what we see as the short-term solution is to build more wind power. And the combination of wind and hydropower is excellent, because when the wind is blowing, we can keep the water in the mountains, and when it's with the wind not blowing, we use the hydropower to produce the electricity. So that's so easy is it, but it's hard to understand for very many people, I believe.
And then it is civil society, because, I mean, if you're going to go to Sweden, Carina can get a phone call and they will build windmills. It seems it's not like that any longer in Sweden as well, because we know the discussion is also emerging in Sweden. But to do that overnight in Norway is it's not easy. I was about to say impossible, but it's getting more difficult.
Yeah, we have done a job in the northern part of Troms here. We called it a mulighetsstudie. It's a possibility study together with the communities, with local support. I will say. And we see a lot of potential to build more electricity power production from the wind. But the problem is when the politicians are going to make the decision that we will go for that, the local communities, society is struggling against them, and they have they have not enough support from the government, Norwegian government. So I believe that the local politicians need more support to stand in the difficult questions to answer them.
Can I ask the same question to you? Yes. In what way can the ambitions that we've had on the table today obtain a broad and strong commitment from local communities, public industry, and civil society?
Yes, I will have kind of a high-level approach on that. I have 3 points. The first, innovation. When there are challenges, there are growth of great opportunities. And I believe that innovation is key to developing these green solutions. Secondly, collaboration. We need to think not only what's happening in each country, we need to think what's happening cross-border. And by that, through science, development, research, and also execution, we need to see the fundamentals in what we do. And third, we need funds. There's a huge capital need entering in this market, and that as a small IFI, NEFCO, we do try to execute on the mandate that we fund green solutions on global markets from a Nordic perspective. So each action towards the green solutions is a positive step going forward. Thank you.
Stein Mathisen.
Dictatorship?
Yeah, that's one way to go. That's one way.
Yeah,
Connie Hedegaard, the Danish former environmental minister, she tried to say the other day that less politics, less democracy, and then we can solve it.
Well, the big question is this kind of American saying that not in my backyard perspective. That's one thing. And you have to communicate why it's necessary to build in your backyard. But I believe there is some kind of example for some shock treatment prices, electricity prices, because the normal user of electricity, they don't want to change their use of electricity. They want to have lights and they want to have warm whenever they want it, and it has to be cheap. But the market price with the lack of electricity supply, the price will go up and people will start looking for challenges or changes. But I believe that more closer Nordic cooperation, because the challenges are the same. You have to build more power, we have to build more grid, and we have to be more renewable, and we have to be sustainable in the way we're doing it with other people. So I don't see why there isn't the biggest topic now in discussion in Nordic countries, how to be energy sufficient, especially with the climate changes and also the political situation in the Nordics. And we are almost 3 NATO countries now. So I don't see why we don't have it as a big main topic now.
Next year,
Maybe.
I think that the thing is that I will actually use the transportation from here and now in 2 minutes. So because I'm flying, the flies, I mean, it will be up in the air in an hour, I think. I want to end this on this note that talking about the cooperation, but also coordination of the infrastructure, on the energy level, and I know that Sweden had such a coordinator looking on the grid at the same time, and we need that on a Nordic level. And then we need some train transportation up north, and then we east-west, and then we have it. That's the solution. So thank you very much, and thanks to the panelists. And I will run.
Thank you very much, Hilde, and safe travels home. And thank you to the panels from the organizers. We have so many good things going on in the Arctic part of the Nordic part of the Arctic. We conclude what we need: youth, knowledge, development of good solutions, communications between the regions, between the cities, and between the capitals, and between the capitals and the north. We have the power of the Nordic friendship, and we have good things going on ahead. Thank you.